Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, board members, for bearing with me. We're down a staff person here, so I'm doing triple duty this afternoon. Good afternoon to the crowd. Welcome to the December 16th, 2025 date of the 1 p.m. docket for the Board of Municipal and Zoning Appeals. My name is Justin Williams. I am the acting executive director of the BMZA. The board members here this afternoon are David Marcosi, from left to right, David Marcosi, Victor Clark, the chair, Leland Shelton, Liz Cornish, and our newly sworn member, Ryan Hargrave. We ask everyone here, please turn off your cell phones. This is because there's a court reporter recording everything happening in the room. If you need to speak privately with someone, we ask that you do so in the lobby or the hallway. When the cases are being called, they'll be called by the chair. We ask that the applicant come up first. When it's your turn to come up and speak, introduce yourself, spell your name for the court reporter, and take an oath before giving testimony. If not done so already, we think everyone has, but please sign in on the sign-in sheet. And if you intend to speak on any topic, everyone planning to speak, including attorneys, applicants, those in favor and those opposed must sign in. The board will probably be voting on every appeal this afternoon, but that vote is not final. By law, we must prepare a written document called a resolution, which requires drafting and review. This process takes several weeks. Once the resolution is drafted, we will send it to you by email. If you're the appellant, you'll be able to access it through a CELA. Please do not build without obtaining a building permit. This approval is not a building permit, but this will be the way on to a building permit if your case is approved this afternoon and by the resolution. There are no postponements to announce today, Mr. Chair, so I think we are ready to go.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for this meeting of the Board of Municipal Zoning and Appeals. First, I would like to give a good shout out to our newest member, Ryan Hargrave. We are excited to welcome her to the board. And now I will be calling our first case of the day, Appeal 25-106, 7201 Park Heights Avenue. Carolyn Hecker for the appellant. The proposal is the applicant seeks to construct a new two-story structure to serve as a place of worship and community center, which requires conditional uses and variances. First, we will hear from planning and staff.
Good afternoon, everyone. Justin Walker, DOP, here on 25-106, 7201 Park Heights Avenue. We did hear this case a few months ago at the August 19th hearing, and there were a few situations that the board wanted the applicant to work out regarding their exact use and the required parking. So here today for the conditional use for both a place of worship and a community center. The off-street parking, we understand, has been recalculated and no longer requires a variance. The bicycle parking, which was the concern of planning at the prior hearing, they had requested a spot for the two long-term bicycle parking spaces. We understand that new plans show that those have been added, so planning appreciates that. So that leaves us with a variance for building height and maximum impervious surface, and planning recommends approval of those variances and the conditional uses.
Thank you. Sure.
Thank you. Sorry. I hope some of that was caught on some of the microphones. As a preliminary matter, the file folder that I've handed out in front of you has a series of exhibits, and I see very helpfully that we have an aerial view on the screen above showing the property. It's located at the intersection of Park Heights Avenue and 7 Mile Lane. It was formerly used as a residence, but it's located on a fairly well-traveled stretch of Park Heights Avenue between two condominium buildings. You'll see in the file also that there is a zoning map behind the tax plat that shows that this property is zoned R1E, which is sort of unusual for the that stretch of Park Heights. It's sort of a piece of R1E that sticks out into a sea of R9. And if we were zoned along with the other properties along Park Heights Avenue, I think we would be in a different situation if we had the same R9 zoning that the adjacent properties have. We could talk more about that. But in any event, when we were here in August on the original application, there were several issues that were raised. One related to parking, and at the time, the application, which is for a place of worship, a synagogue, and a community center, was being approached as one principal use, the place of worship use with an associated accessory community center. We looked at it with fresh eyes, and I think this is really a case where there are two principal uses on the property. There is a place of worship use and there is a community center. And if you look at the site plans, I'm going a little bit out of order here, but what you'll see is that the synagogue use, the place of worship use, occupies the first floor of the proposed building, and then there's a second floor and a basement that are used for the community center that are both of significant size. You'll also notice on the site plan that the site plan includes basketball courts and a playground and things that are more typically associated with the community center use as opposed to a place of worship. So we think this is really a situation where there are two principal uses, and as a result, we need to look at the parking calculation for two principal uses rather than for one place of worship use. So what we've done is split it up into two pieces, and what you'll see on the, and again, I'm going a little bit out of order here, the site plan that's the last exhibit in your file details this pretty carefully related to the capacity of the various parts of the building. You'll see that for the place of worship use, there is a fire-rated capacity of 142 occupants. That's the first floor of the proposed structure. The parking calculation that's required is one parking space per 8 persons of fire-rated capacity, which works out to a requirement of 18 parking spaces for the place of worship use. For the community center use, you'll see there's two portions of that, one on the second floor, one in the basement. On the second floor, there's a capacity of 192 occupants. In the basement, it's 124 occupants. The requirement for a community center use is one parking space per 10 persons of fire-rated capacity, which works out to 19 spaces on the second floor, 12 spaces in the basement, for a total of 31 parking spaces required for the community center use. Add that to the 18 spaces required for the place of worship, and you arrive at 49 parking spaces required for both uses combined. And that's the number of parking spaces that are proposed for this project. So we've gone from the way that it was being calculated before, it was, and this is, you know, just a different way of looking at it, was if it was entirely a place of worship, the entire thing was being treated as if it was one big sanctuary, and the parking requirement was calculated as being 93 parking spaces. And that's way more parking spaces than should be required for this use. And so we were asking for a significant variance to get down to 49 parking spaces. But if you look at it as two separate uses, then it actually works out to be the right number of parking spaces. The other thing that I'll add is that in the interim, the City Council enacted legislation that gets rid of minimum parking requirements altogether. And the result is that if we were to refile the application today, there would be no minimum parking requirement. Instead, there would be a maximum parking requirement. And the math on that works out to be that we would be permitted to provide up to 101 parking spaces as a maximum number of spaces under the law as it exists today. But we're governed by the law as it existed at the time the application was filed. So the result is that 49 spaces would be required based on two uses, two principal uses, and that is what we are proposing to provide. So the parking variance is no longer necessary. The other thing that we did was we looked at the impervious surface area and the variance that was requested there. And I understand that there was considerable discussion about this back in August, which related, I think, partially to the amount of parking, but also to the other impervious surface that was located on the property. We took a hard look at this, and what we've done is we've proposed to use these modular sports tiles for the basketball court, which are pervious in nature, which reduces the amount of impervious surface on the property significantly, reducing the percentage that we are requesting to just under 55% impervious surface. The amount that's permitted is 40%, so we're still requesting just under a 15% variance for impervious surface, but this is a significant reduction from the 64% variance that we were requesting originally. And then finally, with regard to bike parking, we did take another look at that, and we have been able to find space to accommodate the two required long-term bike parking spaces within the structure, so we are no longer requesting the bike parking variance. Now, Mr. Walker also mentioned a building height variance. We do not need a building height variance. I think there was an earlier version of the plan that showed a slightly taller building than what is actually proposed. The building is slightly under the permitted 35 feet, so we do not need a height variance at this point. So the application has really significantly been slimmed down and is now a conditional use application for the place of worship and the community center, and then an impervious surface variance of just under 55%, which is just under a 15% variance in lieu of the permitted 40%. So with that, I can walk through the legal standards for the conditional uses and the variance. I think you've probably heard a lot of this at the earlier hearing, so you can stop me or slow me down if you think I'm taking too much time with this. But I know
Maybe let's focus on the impervious surface variance.
happy to do that. As the board knows, when approving a variance, the board is required to make a finding that the property is unique and that the unique factors of the property create a practical difficulty for the applicant. So here we have a really interesting situation, as I noted at the beginning, where we have a property that's zoned R1E that is sort of in the middle of a group of properties that are zoned R9. It sort of sticks out like a tooth into the corridor along Park Heights Avenue. And that unique situation is what creates the practical difficulty here, because if this property was zoned R9 like its neighbors and like the properties across the street, there is no impervious surface limit for non-residential uses in the R9 zone. So we would not need a variance if we had the same zoning as our neighbors. But because we have this unique zoning, which I think is a relic of the fact that it was a single-family home, previously, and I think when it was mapped, when they did the comprehensive rezoning, they looked at what was on the ground, which was this single-family home on a big lot. And they gave it R1E zoning, even though that's not really what is in place up and down that corridor there. So that unique factor is what is creating the practical difficulty. We also, as I've said, we want to create a situation where we have, we're providing enough parking on the site. We, as a practical matter, we could not provide the maximum number of spaces that would be permitted under today's code, the 101 spaces, while also complying with the 40% maximum impervious surface area. So that, in that sense, also the zoning regulations are what create the practical difficulty for the property. The board's required to consider a series of factors in making its decision. As I said, the property is unique because of the impervious surface area requirement in the R1E district, which is different from what would be applicable to its neighboring properties. This unnecessary hardship is not caused by any person who has an interest in the property. And it's not based on a desire to increase the value or income potential of the property. A community center and a place of worship are not generally heavily income-producing uses. The variance will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other properties in the immediate vicinity or substantially diminish or impair property values in the neighborhood. In fact, this is generally a broadly Orthodox Jewish neighborhood. The synagogue and the community center will serve residents of the community. It is something that will be of an amenity nature to people who live in the neighborhood, so we don't expect it to have any negative impact on properties in the vicinity. The variances are in harmony with the purpose and intent of the zoning code, including promoting and protecting health, safety, and quality of life for current and future generations, and preserving and enhancing the value of structures, communities, and neighborhoods by developing this partially vacant lot for community uses. The variances are not precluded by and will not adversely affect an urban renewal plan, the city's comprehensive master plan, or any historic district. We're not located in a historic district or an urban renewal area. And it will further the city's master plan, the classification of the property as in a primarily residential neighborhood with mostly detached and semi-detached houses, including schools, places of worship, which is appropriate for the zone that it's in. The variances will not otherwise be detrimental to or endanger public health, security, general welfare, or morals, or in any way be contrary to the public interest. The project has been reviewed and approved by Site Plan Review Committee, and the approval of an impervious surface variance is not going to endanger public health, safety, or welfare. And in fact, the reduction in impervious surface to allow the pervious pavers of the basketball court, I think, is both good for the environment and for the project as a whole. So for all these reasons, we believe that the approval of the variance is appropriate. I can talk briefly while I'm at it about the conditional uses. Just broadly, conditional uses are appropriate. They're presumptively allowed, provided that the inherent adverse effects of the use are not somehow worse at this location than you would otherwise expect them to be. Here, the inherent adverse effects of a place of worship and a community center probably, mostly would relate to, congestion, traffic, parking, people coming and going, crowds of that nature. Here, we're providing adequate parking, but not too much parking to meet the demands of the project and the proposed uses. We don't expect there to be any inherent adverse effects beyond what you would normally expect at a community center. We will, particularly I would note in light of the events of this week, the parking lot will be secured, which we think is important for the users of this particular place of worship, and it's important to have enough space for those congregants to park on the site and not have to park, blocks away and walk. So, we think we are providing the appropriate amount of parking as it relates to the proposed use. So I know that was a lot. I know I talk fast. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer them. I apologize for not introducing Becky Kett and Adam Koch, who are with the design team and the synagogue who are here with me today. We're happy to answer any questions about specifically what's proposed. If you have any further questions or need any additional information, we're happy to answer.
Any questions?
None.
Okay, well, I guess we'll start with the conditional use. After reviewing the materials in the application and reviewing the report from planning and the testimony today, I am convinced that whatever adverse effects that are connected to this use at this location will not go above and beyond what will be inherently expected of a place of worship or a community center at this location. In fact, with respect to its use as a place of worship, the applicant posits that this will be a walking show. So in fact, there might be less traffic, less congestion on Sabbath and other holidays because of that. So for those reasons, I am a yes to the conditional use.
I'm a yes to both conditional uses.
I vote yes.
Also yes to conditional uses.
I vote yes.
Now, the fun part, we also have a variance, an impervious surface, a maximum impervious surface area variance. And after reviewing the application of materials, report from planning, which we will adopt, which I would like to adopt, I do found that there are some unique or peculiar characteristics of the lot, particularly its zoning classification. This is a R1E island in many ways that's surrounded by much more dense R9 uses. And because of its unique, the proposed use, it would be impractical for the applicant to complying with the zoning code for this proposed use, particularly to be able to provide parking for the proposed use, and while not running afoul of the maximum impervious surface maximum limit. And so, for those reasons, I'm in favor of approving this variance because I find that the practical difficulty is entirely caused by the zoning code and not by any actions of the applicants. It is not based exclusively on a desire to increase the value or income potential of the property. This is a community amenity in many ways that will be enjoyed by many of the residents in the immediate area and beyond. I do not believe that by approving this variance will be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other properties in the neighborhood, and I do believe that it's in harmony with the code. There's no applicable urban renewal plan. It is in line with the city's comprehensive master plan. It's not in the CHAP district. And I do not believe that it will otherwise be detrimental to or endanger the public health or safety. So for those reasons, I am a yes to the maximum impervious surface variance.
Also yes.
I say I'm yes.
And I'm a yes as well.
Thank you. Oh,
Yes.
sorry. Thank you. I forgot we got a new member.
Thank you.
Now calling appeal 25-107, 4221 Shannon Drive. Adam Rosenblatt will be representing the appellant, equipmentshare.com. The applicant intends to use the existing premises for heavy sales, rental, or service, specifically operating as a heavy equipment rental sales facility. First, we will hear from planning and staff.
So appeal number 25-107, 4221 Shannon Drive. The request is for a conditional use approval for a heavy sales rental or service, which is a conditional use in the I-2 district, specifically the rental of construction equipment. The property is zoned I-2 and contains just over 4.5 acres, so there's sufficient space on site. It is abutted on all sides except the west by other industrial zoning. On the west, there is some R6 zoning, but it's currently undeveloped woodlands. So planning finds that the site is suitable for this conditional use. We do not anticipate any impacts above and beyond what would regularly be expected, and therefore planning recommends approval of the appeal.
Thank you. Mr. Rosenblatt, before you begin, if your clients or intend to speak or have anyone that they intend to have speak on their behalf, I want to make sure that they can be sworn in right now.
Sure, thank you. Adam Rosenblatt of Venable LLP on behalf of the petitioner. With me is Joe Dieter of Equipment Share and Josh Sharon of Morrison Ritchie Associates, the professional engineer that prepared the site plan in the case. I would offer to proffer, but if you want to swear them both in case you have
That's
any
the case.
specific questions. For
Yes,
them,
could
that
you
works.
guys please stand and be sworn?
Raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, I would just to say, if either of them do speak, then we'll get the names and spellings at that time. Thank you.
Thank you. So I've handed out just an overview of this request and 5 exhibits that take you through exactly what we're proposing here. The proposal is for a company known as Equipment Share. It's a heavy equipment rental and sales business. They have 375 locations around the country. They're proposing to use the property for the rental, sales, and service of construction equipment like earth movers, forklifts, etc. The proposed use is consistent with the longstanding use of the property as outdoor storage area for heavy equipment. It is, the overall theme is this is an ideal location for this use because along Shannon Drive, all of the adjacent users are industrial, they're warehouse or some type of manufacturing, and the entire back of the property is wooded. There's a complete buffer from any other use that is not industrial. So if called to testify, Mr. Dieter would tell you he is the general manager for Equipment Share, has had that position for 4 years and has 20 years of experience in the construction rental industry, has worked for other companies in the Baltimore area. He's on site every day, 7 to 5, so he could tell you about the use. He manages the property, provides customer service, and helps the construction companies get equipment they need for jobs. That's really the service that this business provides. In your packet, the first exhibit is the site plan that was submitted with the application, and the second exhibit is an overview of Equipment Share. And it tells you about this national company, what it does. Primarily, they rent construction equipment for construction jobs in the surrounding areas. They're unique in that they have GPS and keypads to make operations easier for customers. They have sales reps that provide construction equipment to help with job sites in the area. And as I said, there's 375 locations and 8,000 employees around the country. So the proposed use would involve mainly storing equipment such as cranes, forklifts, etc., using the existing garage on the property to service their equipment, and transporting equipment as needed to sites in the area. It is mainly transported by Equipment Share drivers who haul and deliver and pick up equipment. There's a dispatcher in the office that is going to be on part of the building on the property. The trips are spread throughout the day. The drivers start in the morning. They work 10-hour days. The place is closed on the weekends. and they have stores in Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Delaware, New Jersey, all around the mid-Atlantic area. And so if somebody needs a piece of equipment on a construction site in Baltimore and they don't have it on this site, they have the ability to get it from one of their other locations. This property, Mr. Dieter would testify, is perfect for this. It's wide open. It fronts on an existing industrial road that's equipped to handle all of their truck traffic. They have 12 employees maximum at a time. The site has a large open area with plenty of on-site parking for the employees and the equipment that they intend to store. They've had no complaints that they're aware of from anyone in the neighborhood. They're all, like I said, industrial users in the surrounding area, so that's not surprising. And he would testify that use can take place on this property without having any negative impact on the surrounding area. Mr. Sharon would then testify. His resume is provided as Exhibit 3. He is a professional civil engineer with Morris & Ritchie Associates, has over 20 years of experience, extensive work in the Baltimore region, has testified before and been accepted as an expert before in this forum and many other forums throughout Maryland. He prepared the plan in this case and has reviewed the conditional use statutes. He would take you through Exhibit 4, which is just an aerial similar to what we have on the screen in front of us. I'd orient the board and tell you that the property fronts on Shannon Drive. It's bordered by a self-storage facility to the northwest, and it's across from a number of industrial uses along Shannon Drive. It's completely buffered to the south and west by permanent environmental wooded easement area, and there's no residential in the vicinity. Some site photos are attached as Exhibit 5A through F. The first two, A and B, are views from the site into Shannon Drive, and you'll see just the storage of equipment, the garage, and the open central area. Photos C and D are views up and down the existing industrial road, really just to show you this is an existing road that can handle the type of truck traffic that's anticipated from this use. And finally, photos E and F are the neighboring uses, which are public storage and other industrial uses. As the Department of Planning confirmed, it's 4.75 acres in this district, which is intended to provide for a wide variety of manufacturing, fabricating, processing, distributing, and warehouse uses. The use is permitted by conditional use. We're not proposing any new structure using the existing improvements on the property. And as I said, there's plenty of open area for the storage of the construction equipment that they will rent to customers. Mr. Sharon would run through the conditional use criteria contained in Section 5-406 of the City Zoning Code. He would explain that the use proposed, heavy sales, rental, or service, is defined as sales, rental, or service establishment that maintains a service or storage area that is outdoors or in a structure that is only partially enclosed. It perfectly identifies the proposed use for equipment share. And I could go through each of the Section 5-406 requirements individually and tell you the overall overarching theme you would hear is that this is a perfect location due to the surrounding uses and the significant buffer in the rear of the site, the existing road, the existing garage, the existing open area for storage of this equipment makes it so that it can handle this use and not have any impact above and beyond what would be anticipated for this particular use. I'll stop there, but if you'd like me to go through any of the criteria individually, I can. The conclusion that Mr. Sharon would say is that this use would not have any more impact in this location than it would on any other site in this zoning district.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
No questions.
No questions.
Thank you. After reviewing your application and the materials attached to it, as well as hearing today's testimony, I can't think of any reasons why the establishment or operation of a heavy sales, rental, or service use here at this location will cause adverse effects that would be above and beyond what we would expect anywhere else in the zoning district. And for that reason, I'm a yes for the conditional use.
Also yes.
I vote yes.
And I am also a yes.
I vote yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now I'm calling Appeal 25-139, 1321 West North Avenue. William Brodus for owner applicant, the BBC Group. The proposal is to convert the existing three-story vacant masonry building into a full-unit multifamily dwelling requiring variances to lot area and off-street parking. First, we will hear from planning and staff.
Just a note, there are now printed dockets on the table up here.
Good morning.
So 25-139, 1321 West North Avenue. The request is to use the property as 4 dwelling units, which will require a variance for lot area. First off, the property is in a office residential OR1 zoning district where conversions from single family to multifamily do not require an ordinance of City Council and are allowable by Section 12-303. Regarding the lot area variance, for 4 dwelling units, 1,925 square feet of lot area would be required. The lot encloses 1,050 square feet. This would be a variance of 875 square feet, or approximately 46%. This is a significant variance and is a bit higher than planning is typically comfortable with. We do understand that a similar appeal was heard for this property in 2015 under BMZ 15-00391, and at that time, the property was granted approval for 3 dwelling units. A variance for 3 dwelling units would reduce the requirement to 1,375 square feet, or lower the variance percentage down to 24. So planning is recommending approval of the appeal for 3 dwelling units, which would allow 1 unit per above grade floor of the building.
Thank you. Mr. Brodus, could you stand and be sworn?
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Can you state and spell your name?
William Brodus, Broaddus.
Thank you.
Tell us about your application today.
We was trying to maintain the 4 dwelling units, and as planning said, they're willing to give us the 3 dwelling units, and we'll accept that.
Okay. Tell us more about the characteristics of your property and how as it exists today, and some of the history about it, and why you need these variances to move forward.
My client had purchased the building as a 4 dwelling unit, didn't have a use, so we went to reapply to get the proper use for the building. And so, since the 4 dwelling units is not approved, he'll have to reconstruct it to a 3 dwelling unit.
For variances, there's certain requirements that we are, so there are certain findings that we have to make as a zoning board. The initial one is that we have to find some unique or peculiar characteristics about this property that would necessitate a diversion from the zoning code. Could you speak to some of the unique characteristics about the property?
Well, the unique characteristic is that he's purchased the building, and it's already designed as a 4 dwelling unit, apartment building. It was previously a 3 dwelling unit, as research has shown. So
tell me, do you have 4 like water meters? Is it electrical for 4?
he has three electrical meters that are there.
Okay.
Okay, at this time. I think 2 of the apartments were sharing 1. And as far as the gas meters, the house is all electric.
Okay. Any other questions?
No questions.
Okay. After reviewing the materials in the application and hearing your testimony today, I do believe that there are some peculiar circumstances surrounding the property, particularly that it is an already existing, formerly, although it's abandoned, it was formerly non-conforming use for the zoning district as a funeral home, and so it has already been approved. It's already, and as it exists now, it's maintained as a 3-unit structure. So in order for you to get the property back into working use, complying with the zoning code does pose a practical difficulty for the applicant. Starting with the variance for lot area, for off-street parking, the lot is essentially, the existing building covers the majority of the lot, and so in order for you to comply with the off-street parking variance, it will require you to essentially destroy parts of the building or renovate the buildings to create more of that space. And we don't require you to go through extreme lengths. The zoning code doesn't want to require you to go through extreme lengths. That's why we have the variance standards. I find that this practical difficulty is entirely caused by the code. It's not due to the fault of the applicant or the owner. And it's not based exclusively on a desire to increase the value or income potential of the property. This variance, I believe, will be in harmony with the zoning code and with the city's comprehensive master plan. And there is no urban renewal plan, and this is not in a CHAP district. And there are no other reasons that I could find why approving the off-street parking variance would be detrimental to or endanger the public health or safety or welfare. So I'm a yes on the off-street parking variance.
Also yes.
Yes.
I agree with the chair and also yes.
Also yes.
The more fun one, the lot area variance. I like to hear that you are amenable to planning department's suggestion of 3 units here instead of 4, which would significantly reduce the amount of variance needed for this property. And for many of the same factors that I found that this property was peculiar or unique as it pertained to the off-street parking variance, I find that those are also applicable here too. This property is improved with an existing building that covers much of the existing lot, which is not that large, and it's certainly probably not large enough to fit 4 units. So, but a 3-unit variance, I believe, would be more in harmony with the purpose intent of the city zoning code. And so, for the reasons stated before, I am also a yes to the lot area variance. For the reduced lot area variance, what would be, I believe, 1650
Yep, correct.
square feet. So I'm a yes to that variance.
I vote yes.
I'm also in agreement with chair and vote yes.
I vote yes.
I just want to clarify that it's existing as a 3-story, but they want to convert into 4 units.
Yes, it exists as a unlicensed 3-unit, it appears to be.
Yes.
Okay.
They was trying to convert it to 4 units because they was gonna use the basement level, but they eliminated that, so it's just a
Oh, I
first
see.
3.
Okay, sorry. It was just a little confusing to me, but yeah, I'm a yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I don't know if the next one's.
Oh, you're fine.
No,
Oh,
the next case.
Oh, yes, if y'all, now I'm calling case 25-140, 3311 Ruckert Avenue. The BBC Group will be speaking on behalf of the appellant. First, we will hear from the proposal is to expand the existing use of the property to 4 dwelling units, requiring a confirmation of the expansion and a vote on any needed variances, rear yard variances by the board. First, we'll hear from planning and staff.
So 25-140, 3311 Ruckert Avenue. The request is to use the property for 4 dwelling units as well as construct an addition. The property is located in an R3 zoning district where multifamily dwellings are not a conditional nor permitted use. However, the property does have a lawful authorization on city records for use as a multifamily 4 dwelling unit structure, which makes it a non-conforming use. However, regarding the addition, section 18302 of the code, I'll just read it, the quote, a non-conforming use may not be expanded in any manner, nor may a structure be erected or expanded unless the use of the land and the structure are made to conform to the regulations of the district in which they are located, end quote. So therefore, because this is a non-conforming use, planning has to recommend disapproval due to section 18302. I will note that if the Housing Options and Affordability Act passes in its current form, that would make low-density multifamily a permitted use in the district and therefore eliminate that prohibition. But as that has not happened yet, planning recommends disapproval of the appeal.
Tell us about your application today.
We need to swear in.
Oh, yeah, please, will you be, sir, will you be speaking?
Yes, that's the owner.
Yeah, please stand and be sworn.
you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I
Can you state and spell your name?
Alexi Polo.
How do you spell your last name?
Polo. P-O-L-E-N-U-R.
First, I want to ask you, the planning department recommends disapproval because it would be an expansion of an already existing non-conforming use which our zoning code does not allow. Or do you understand why that is?
Yes, I guess based on the law on the books, right?
Yes.
Yeah, just.
And so I believe unfortunately that we can't move forward because of that. Correct, Justin?
Well, I guess you hear the argument, but that would be the position, I mean, the board's interpretation. I should have printed this out for you to have handy for you, but the provision of the non-conforming structure expansion. And yeah, because it's a non-conforming use, the issue is like how you interpret non-conforming structure versus non-conforming use. I'm trying to organize my thoughts. The use of multifamily dwellings generally in the R3 district is not permitted, so it'd be non-conforming for the use part, and then the structure itself, if you didn't look at what's inside of it, would be okay. So that's kind of the gray area of how you define non-conforming structure. But given that the structure, because there's an argument that could be made that if it's existing 4 units, you're keeping 4 units, you're just changing the configuration in a way. That would be one argument to make. But the other argument would be, yeah, you're expanding what is non-conforming, and the intent of a non-conforming provision of the zoning code is to phase out. You don't want to encourage more investment in non-conforming use or structure. Therefore, you would not want to grant and encourage more investment.
I mean, there has been discussion, I will say, in the city about making low-density multifamily a permitted use across the city. Unfortunately, that has not moved forward at this point. So, I think it's. I mean, I think with the board we can discuss, but it seems to me that this is a non-conforming use of the existing 3 units are non-conforming, and so any expansion would be illegal.
So can we, I don't know if you can rule on it or not, but can we postpone it just in case the law passed, so that way if it passed within a year?
Well, so you are tied to the law that was in existence when you filed your application.
Okay.
So the better move on your part, and this is entirely your decision, might be to withdraw your application.
That's what we want to do.
Okay. You're permitted to I guess
you can
it'd be one
reapply.
less thing for me to write a resolution on,
Yeah.
but because you can always reapply. The change would be the change in the state of law, so
the
that
law
would be
changes.
a reason to apply within a year.
Yeah.
But a withdrawal might be easier, all things considered. So.
I think it's your decision entirely to make.
We'll withdraw and just wait until we see what happens.
Thank you guys so much.
Okay, thank you. Y'all have a good holiday.
You too. So, what I'm gonna do is skip this. I'm gonna put them back at the end. So now I'm calling case 25-182.
Come and talk.
Be sworn now, spoken, now court reported.
Come if you have a question,
To him.
or me.
But now I'm calling case 25-182, 703 North Fremont Avenue, NAMD Consulting Services for the owner. The proposal is to use the existing premises as a community center. First, we will hear from planning and staff.
If you may, Mr. Chair, I apologize, and it's my fault for rushing this signing, because they were here to the neighbors were here to testify in the last case, and they showed up, so
Was that
the Ruckert Avenue
Ruckert
hearing.
Avenue? Well, we've that application will be withdrawn. We cannot approve their application because it would be an expansion of a non-conforming use.
So we can't enter our comments into the record?
If the application is withdrawn, there's no more record.
So we'll go next time, okay.
Thank you, yeah.
Mr. Sheriff, can I get your name and spelling, sir?
Yes. Stephen Davis.
apologize.
You did call 182, correct?
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Appeal 25-182, 703 North Fairmont Avenue is a request for a conditional use for a community center, as well as variances for parking and lot area. Planning is in support of the appeal. We understand that the property at 703 will be consolidated with an irregularly shaped undevelopable parcel at 701, which is on the corner. That will expand a lot, but not quite get to the 3,000 square feet, but it will help to consolidate an otherwise undevelopable parcel at 701 into the community center use. So planning recommends approval of the appeal.
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you.
Of course. I will hold off until I'm at a mic.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Drew Tilden from Rosenberg Martin Greenberg. I am here today on behalf of the applicant, and I'm joined by Ms. Nika Namdi, who is a representative of the applicant. So as has previously been stated, this is an application to redevelop the existing structure at 703 North Fremont Avenue for use as a community center. And this is going to also include the consolidation of 703 North Fremont with the adjacent 701 North Fremont. So as background, the property is zoned R8 and it's in the Upton, like right at the edge of the Upton and Harlem Park communities. It is a really, 701 is this tiny triangularly shaped lot, and then 703 is also a really shallow rectangular lot. And therefore is actually significantly shorter than the average row home lot. Usually they're about 100 to 110 feet deep. This one is only 70 feet deep. So that combined with the fact that it's actually at a three-way intersection really renders these properties combined and separated to be unique. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about my client and the proposal here. So Fight Blight Be More is an organization that seeks to combat blight in Baltimore. So that's through, they've created a mobile app that's identifying blighted properties. They're providing information to the community about the impact of blight on their neighborhoods and wellness. And then they also support community-led redevelopment projects of blighted properties. And some of their initiatives include working with youth works workers who had the opportunity to test and provide feedback on the application, and also made substantive impacts in the Harlem Park community with over 50 service requests to 311. They also had an internship that was paid, as are all of their internships, with a college student who was again given really substantive work. And they have also hosted workshops with the Black Robot Project, and that is just, those are just a few of the things that they work through. Ms. Namdi acquired the property in 2018 with this intent to use it as the Hack Hub, which is a youth-centered idea curation and startup lab space that offers training for youth on how to start businesses and develop ideas. So this is something that we don't really otherwise have in this community, but really across Baltimore City, and it's something that's really exciting that is being brought for our youth. So they've worked closely with community partners over the last 7 years to try and bring this to life. And they're also going to provide not just trainings, but there's going to be Wi-Fi, 3D printers, and programmable robots. So in addition to the sort of workshops available, there's going to be an accessory retail space in the basement. Now, this is not going to be a for-profit venture for Fight Blight Be More. This is going to be a space where those who have participated in programs and created some sort of good have the opportunity to sell those goods. But again, that's accessory. It's not something that is uncommon in community centers. They often have pop-up shops, be it holiday markets, makered spaces, etc. So also I will note that Prior to this process, while the application was working to secure funding, it was used for a few of these temporary events. The applicant did not realize, because they didn't do any interior work prior to this, that a use and occupancy permit would be required for the community center. So as soon as they started the process for this pre-development project and learned that they were going to need a community center conditional use approval, they've ceased all operations. And I will note, thank you, Mr. Williams, for pulling it up here. But it is an existing structure that was constructed for use as a single-family dwelling. It's 3 stories. And then right next to it is 701 North Fremont, which, as you can see, is a very, very, very small, otherwise undevelopable lot. So just again, coming back to the approvals we're requesting today, the first is conditional use approval so that we can operate a community center on this property. It's conditional use in the R8 district. And then the second is the minimum lot area variance. So all uses other than those that are traditionally residential have a 3,000 square foot minimum lot area requirement in the R8 district. This lot, even after it's consolidated, is only going to be just over 1,500 square feet. So we are requesting that variance as well. So just to address the conditional use standards, Ms. Hecker has already set forth the Schultz v. Pritt standard, and I'll do it now, and I will do it again shortly. But as a reminder to the board, the standard is that a use is presumed to be permitted and compatible with the zoning district, absent facts or circumstances in the record that show that the use at this location would be worse than the same use anywhere else in the same zoning district. The board is, of course, also required to consider certain items. So just to briefly address them, the property, once consolidated, is going to be approximately 1,500 square feet, and it's already improved by a building that was originally constructed for use as a row home. The area surrounding the property offers an abundance of off-street parking, and then on top of that, the community center is really proposed to be youth-focused, so it's anticipated that students are either going to walk or take public transportation, which further mitigates any parking impact. The surrounding area is residential in nature, and so this proposed center is going to provide, again, unique resources that are valuable to residents in the area and important information that's going to better arm them to support their community and eliminate these blighted properties. The premises is easily accessible for emergency vehicles. It's not going to impact the accessibility of light or air to the premises. It's already well served by public facilities. It's not going to impact any historic landmarks. Again, the neighborhood is residential in character, and so this community center is consistent because it's going to serve surrounding residents. It's consistent with the master plan's land use plan, which designates the property for row house residential zoning, and the zoning code indicates that community centers, as I stated, are presumed to be compatible in these row house residential districts. There is not an applicable urban renewal plan, and with the exception of the variance that I will discuss shortly, this meets the standards and requirements of the zoning code. It also is compatible with the purpose and intent of the code, specifically to preserve and enhance the value of structures, communities, and neighborhoods, because again, it is bringing these valuable and unique and otherwise unavailable resources to the neighborhood. And also, it's going to facilitate the use of the property as a valuable and additive use, which is a benefit to the general welfare. So now to address the limited criteria for denial, and this application does not meet any of these criteria. The proposed use is not going to negatively impact traffic or off-street parking or any of the necessary facilities, and therefore the community center is not going to be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, or welfare. It also is not precluded by any law or urban renewal plan. It is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood and therefore is not contrary to the public interest. And as I've already stated, it is in harmony with the purpose and intent of the zoning code. So I'm not sure, would you like me to take a pause before moving to the variances or?
Go to the variances, yeah.
I was looking for a break. So for the variance standards, I've set forth in detail the standard that is laid out in the code, but broadly, the variance must show that there are conditions that are peculiar to the property or exceptional circumstances that give rise to the need for the variance. Now, in this case, the property is absolutely unique. It's currently 2 lots. The triangular one is 613 square feet, and then the row home lot, as I mentioned, is only 70 feet deep, which further limits the ability to have sufficient property land area to meet that 3,000 square foot minimum lot area requirement. So individually and as consolidated, the size of the lots and the unique surroundings of this property, especially the location at a three-way intersection, give rise to the need, the practical difficulty in this application. So then addressing the required considerations, the property's shape and depth aren't generally applicable to other properties in the R8 district. Unnecessary hardship is caused by the imposition of the code on these unique properties. And I'll also note that I think, as Mr. Walker stated, the property at 701 North Fremont, absent this consolidation, could not be developed at all because it doesn't meet any of the minimum lot area requirements in the district. And I'll also note that the applicant is consolidating these properties to mitigate the issue. The purpose of the variance isn't to generate income potential. The variance is not going to be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for all of the reasons I addressed in the conditional use section. The applicant also has already improved that green space there, so the 701 lot is substantially more attractive now than it was, in part because of this application. And the requested variance, as I've mentioned, is in harmony with the purpose and intent of the code. It's going to facilitate the creation of this community center in a manner that is actually more consistent with the code because we need the consolidation. The variance is not precluded by an urban renewal plan, and it's consistent with the master plan, as I've already stated. It's also not in a CHAP district. And the applicant has taken actually great steps to ensure the security of the property and the surrounding area. The building has an ADT security system and also external mounted cameras, so this will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, security, or general welfare, or otherwise be contrary to the public interest.
Okay, I did have one question.
Yeah.
Are you able to provide us an update about the fire rated capacity of the structure so we would know better how many spaces we will need for the variance?
Yeah, absolutely. So we won't know the fire rated capacity for this, and this is an issue with community centers applications in general. We can't get the fire rated capacity until we move forward with the use and occupancy permit inspection period. I think, as we've discussed throughout today, if we were to file this application right now, we would not need any sort of variance from the off-street parking requirements. That said, as you can see, it's not only a tiny lot, neither have space with the existing structures on there. They're abnormally shaped, and there is a rear alley that makes them even smaller than usual. So we would ask for a variance from the off-street parking requirements for 0 from whatever is required.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant?
The neighboring home, is there any opposition or letters of support from 705?
So I'm not sure, is there?
Not from 705, but we did have one from 715.
But we don't have anything in opposition for this.
Okay. Any other questions? Is there anyone here today to speak in opposition to this case? Okay, on to deliberations. I guess we'll start with the conditional use. After reviewing the application and supporting materials and hearing testimony today by the applicant and their counsel, I am convinced that the establishment of a community center at this location will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, or welfare. Whatever negative effects of having a community center at this location, I'm not convinced we'll go above or beyond the effects we would think of having a community center anywhere else in the zoning district. And so for that reason, I am a yes for the conditional use.
Also a yes for conditional use.
Yes for conditional use.
Yes for conditional use.
And also yes for the conditional use.
Thank you. And so moving on to the variances, we have a lot area variance and an off-street parking variance. The lots themselves are unique in size. It's particularly 701, which is a triangular shape and uniquely small compared to other lots in the zoning district and neighboring lots. In addition, they abut a 9-foot alley in the rear, which further reduces the amount of developable space on the lots. And so because of these unique circumstances related to the properties, strict compliance with the zoning code, it provides a practical difficulty to strictly complying with the zoning code, especially for the lot area variance and the off-street parking area variance. In fact, whatever the fire rated capacity may be for this property, there will likely be a need for a 100% off-street parking area variance. And so I am a yes for the lot area variance and the off-street parking variance.
Also a yes for lot variance and off-street parking.
I'm a yes for both.
Yes for both.
And I am also yes for both.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I'm calling appeal 25-194, 6302 Lincoln Avenue. Dino LaFiandra for the appellant. The proposal is to construct a 2-story addition with an interior side yard deck attached to the existing single-family detached dwelling. First, we will hear from planning and staff.
So on Appeal 25-194, 6302 Lincoln Avenue, a request to construct a 2-story addition requiring the following variances: a front yard minimum setback requirement of, or provided of 28 feet in lieu of requirement of 30. Interior side yard, 10 feet is required, 7 is proposed. Rear yard, 30 feet is required, 26 is proposed. And lot coverage, 30% is permitted, 35.2% is proposed. Planning has no objection to this appeal so long as the applicant demonstrates a connection between the peculiar conditions and the requested relief.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Dino LaFiandra.
Thank you.
I have with me Tammy Reicher, who is one of the two owners of the property.
Will they be speaking
Yes,
today?
I think they should be sworn.
Okay, thank
And
you.
Donnie Iamcree, who's the architect.
Okay, thank you. Please stand and be sworn.
You swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thanks. We'll get your names and spellings when you speak. I've handed you the material that was submitted with the application, including the site plan as well as floor plans and architectural renderings for the property. The Reichers have lived on the property since 2001. Mr. Reicher, David Reicher, is a lifetime resident of this neighborhood. The house was built in 1956. The purpose of the addition is really to modernize the home. We have a 1950s split-level home, which is just functionally obsolete for modern living. As you can see from the photograph on the screen, thank you to Mr. Williams for placing that up there. There's no driveway and there's no garage, which is unusual and peculiar for this particular neighborhood. Oh, pardon me. Thank you. Which is unusual for this particular neighborhood. Almost all of the homes in the neighborhood have driveways, and many of them have garages as well. As you can see, that's not present here. We also have The home is a split level, which presents a number of difficulties in terms of additions to a split level structure. As you can see, the front of the structure is the two-story aspect of the home, and in the back is the one level split. So and what you can there you can as well see that many of the other dwellings in the neighborhood have at least driveways, and many of them have garages as well. About the Reichers, the Reichers have 4 children, ages 12 to 29, 2 of whom live in the house with Mr. and Mrs. Reicher. Altogether, they have a family of 11, and Mrs. Reicher's relatives live in the neighborhood as well. It is not uncommon, it's very typical for the Reichers to have large family gatherings at the home, and the purpose of the addition is to make the home functional for that purpose, to have out-of-town guests come and be able to stay there for holidays and other things like that. I wanted to if I may, just walk you through the development. I'm referring to page 2. As you can see, this is a site plan that shows in the middle of the site, you've got the existing split level home. The gray area around the home, that's the proposed 2-story addition, which is detailed on the other pages of the plan. As you can see, there's a driveway proposed from Lincoln Avenue, which would lead to a garage, and then the addition is on the left side, the rear, and on the right side of the home. Flipping to, there's also, as you can see, a small addition in the front of the house around the entryway. The next 2 pages are floor plans, which show the proposed conditions of the first and second levels. You've got a garage, a 1-car garage, which leads to a entryway to a mudroom. And then you've got the dinette off the kitchen. This home proposes a Passover kitchen, which would be in addition to the kind of daily regular kitchen. But the Passover kitchen is used, as you are most likely aware, a limited number of days per year around the time of the Passover holiday. And as you can see, that does take space on the first level, which drives some of the area requirements that we're seeking variances from. We also have a typical dining room, a typical living room. There are 2 bedrooms proposed for the first floor and a study, as well as the family room. And if I might point out, somewhat in the middle, so one of the issues with the split level is how to connect the multiple levels of the home, particularly when you have additions, because because of the typology of the split level, building additions tends to require additional space geometrically on the lot in order to get the addition to match up with the level of the split. And here we see that in the middle of the home, there's a number of staircases which are used for that purpose to kind of get to the existing levels on the split. And that is one of the difficulties in planning an addition to a split level like this. Moving on to the next page, on the second floor, you can see there's a master suite proposed, as well as 3 additional bedrooms. The home has 3 bedrooms currently, and they're proposing a total of 6 bedrooms.
In terms of uniqueness of this particular property, for your information, we also did enclose the architectural elevations on pages 5 and 6, and there's sections of the home shown on page 7. And in terms of uniqueness of the property, there are several unique aspects of this particular property that I wanted to point out. Number one, if you look at the site plan, which is page 2 of the handout, you can see that the lot is trapezoidal in nature. The front of the lot is 85 feet, and the rear property line is 93 and a half feet, almost 94 feet. And that is because this particular lot is on a curve or on a bend of Lincoln Avenue, and also within the subdivision itself, this block is somewhat curved as well. So, and I also wanted to point out that the south property line, that would be the, not property line, the south building line of the existing dwelling is parallel to the south property line. And that setback there is approximately 22 feet from existing to the existing building. The setback on the north property line is 19.7 feet. And this combination of factors leads to the proper placement of the bulk of the addition, including the garage, being on the left side of the house as opposed to being on the right side of the house. Number one, we need less of a variance on the south side of the house, but also this is where the functional core of the addition and the existing home are. So, and that's borne out as well by the floor plan, which I had walked through earlier. In addition, we have the peculiar nature of just the split level in the first place, just the amount of space on the lot that it takes in order to create a functional and modern floor plan in light of the existing 1950s split level that is on the lot. It just takes extra space in order to be able to do that, and that is driving the variances as well. So I did want to just mention briefly, we need the variances that we're seeking. 2 feet in the front yard, it's a 28 feet in lieu of 30 feet required. The interior side yard, that would be on the south side of the property, the left side. The setback as shown on this plan is actually 7.8 feet. Just in order to avoid any discrepancies at the building permit stage, I stated 7 feet in lieu of 10. It's actually 7.8 in lieu of 10. So it's a 2.2 foot variance that they're needing there. The rear yard, it's a 4 foot reduction, 26 feet in lieu of 30 feet. There is this unenclosed porch on the left side of the property, which is shown in the site plan view. That is 5 feet in width. It comes from, it comes within 3 feet of the property line. And as you know, that's a permitted encumbrance into the side yard. However, it needs to be 4 feet off the rear property line. It's only 3 feet. So we're seeking a 1 foot reduction there. The lot coverage, all things considered, we are seeking a variance for 35.2 feet, 35.2% in lieu of the 30% lot coverage in the R1 zone. The fact that we are on the left side of the property where we have the 22-foot setback. When you add a garage to that setback, which is typically 14 feet, which is what's shown here, you come within the 7.8 feet of the property line there. Any smaller garage would not be functional, and for that reason, and continuing with that that line down the south side of the property, the south building elevation there. Then on the rear, these variances are really just driven by the fact, given the split-level nature of the existing dwelling, the need for the space to build a functional space in this area. I think I will take a breath at that point, see if you have any questions, but I think that is, those are the factors that I had wanted to point out for you.
Awesome. Questions from the board? I'll start. I would like you to go more in depth into the unique and peculiar characteristics of the property that would make compliance with the zoning code a practical difficulty. I heard in your testimony about, that this property not having a driveway or garage makes it unique, and it's unique, which is fine. But how does that uniqueness sort of connect to the desire to build an addition to the property and an inability to comply with the required setbacks and lot coverage?
So preliminarily, I did want to point out that section 5308, required findings, it doesn't actually point to uniqueness. It says peculiar to the property, which, I mean, we can discuss what that means, but what I was pointing out was that it is certainly peculiar in this neighborhood that there would not be a driveway or a garage. And in order to modernize the home and make it functionally workable for this multi-generational family, we would seek to build both a driveway and a garage. And I think that's the nexus that's there. And that creates the need for the interior side yard variance, because without the variance, the garage would be limited to approximately 11 feet in width. And with the variance, obviously, a garage of 11 feet in width is not functional. That brings the width with the variance to 14 feet, which becomes workable for a one-car garage.
Is that for the side yard variance?
That's the side yard variance, yes.
So I'll actually build on that question. Was there any, I don't want to question the way that the house is laid out. I believe that it's laid out in order to respond to the needs of the family. Was there any consideration of utilizing some of the other parts of the property for this additional program? And if so, why was that not an option?
So I will address it first, and then perhaps either Donnie or Ms. Reicher has a comment. But there was consideration given to demo and rebuild, which would obviously, which might eliminate some of the needs for the variances. The desire was to keep the existing home and to build off of it for a number of reasons, including that it is consistent with, as you can see, many of the homes in the neighborhood, and that would be a better approach for the development of this. There was some discussion, at least in preparation for this case, of why we couldn't go higher instead of going quite as wide or as much lot coverage as we are seeking. As you can see on the elevations, we have a proposed building height of nearly 30 feet. It's 29 feet, 29.7 feet. And it would be unlikely that we could get any more vertical space in this dwelling and not need a height variance which, so you see that in order to make the property functional for the family's intended use, something, they'll be in here for a variance for one thing or another.
Sure. I mean, maybe the architect can explain a little bit more, but I mean, just looking at some of the site and aerial photographs, there were remnants of a garage, or at least a driveway on the property once upon a time, and did you consider maybe revisiting the use of that curb cut to minimize the amount of variance relief required or requested?
So I could answer that, Tammy Reicher.
Just get your name for the.
Reischer. And we originally had the garage on that side, but our neighbor on that side asked us if we would move it to the other side.
Okay.
So, and that neighbor was fine. On the other side, it was a little bit more complicated because there is no curb cut on this, so we have to put the whole thing, and then we had to move the kitchen, everything, we had to flip everything, because when we come in from the garage, we really want to be close to the kitchen, so I could put the groceries there and not have to carry them across the house. So after discussion with that neighbor who, is on board with what we're doing, just that request, we moved it to the other side.
It's very kind of you.
I would also note
We're
that
trying.
they're very close to the 50% impervious coverage ratio under existing conditions. So they're at 49%. So even just needing to extend the driveway even a little bit on the right side of the house might have driven the need for another variance there. So I did want to just point that out.
And I could also add that, if I may, that our house was one of the first ones built. We bought it from the original owner at the time. So he said he never had a driveway and never had a garage. He said it was always like that. And it's also a little bit of a smaller model than the other houses. Like the bedrooms are much smaller. You can fit like one bed in each room. Can't really do two. So so that's what he had told us, that it never even was like that before.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No questions.
Okay. So we have 4 variances in front of us: a front yard variance, a rear yard variance, interior side yard variance, and a maximum lot coverage variance. We've heard testimony from the applicant regarding some of the unique characteristics regarding the property, namely its lack of driveway and garage, and that strict compliance with the zoning code will result in building an addition that may be impractical or not as useful for the owners. And that building any sort of garage or driveway for the property would require a variance of some nature. I think that as far as lot coverage in the interior side yard are concerned, I think I'm kind of convinced that, for example, that strict compliance with the zoning code would necessitate an 11-foot wide garage for the property, which would be, sort of not worth it in a way. And so I do see that. But what I'm trying to really, really get a stronger feel for is, as the property exists today, what are the peculiar or exceptional circumstances that require any garage or driveway? Because I do see some properties that don't have a car or garage in the neighborhood. Any other thoughts?
Well, my only question is, under which rationale did the neighbor convince you to move your garage to the other side? Did they just ask and you did it? Was there a concern about something that in building this structure could pop back up because of the closeness.
Right. So we actually applied for the variance a few years ago and we got it. It was approved, but we didn't get our building done in time because life took it, life got in the way and we never got that done. And we had asked all of our neighbors for permission, and asked them. So that neighbor, that was just something that he was concerned about, that, if there's a driveway there, he just asked us to do it on the other side. And just, it wasn't something that was a big deal to us to do, so just to make them happy, we did it. Yeah.
Will he be happy with closer proximity of the new structure?
Yeah, well, I think that the way that the property line is, his property is actually is much closer to that property line than ours will be. On that side, there's their property line, it goes at an angle, and it's, I would say, yeah, I don't know if we have that, but it's much closer. They have like this little porch off this, yeah. They have that little area that's, the way the house is put, it's almost at an angle, so that back corner of the house is actually pretty close to our property line.
Okay.
But we did speak to them and told them what we were doing, and they were fine with it.
Yeah, our problem is that, speaking to someone that doesn't understand the code, I mean, that's just saying, do you mind?
Yeah.
Well, I think, I'm sorry, Chair, I think I'm opening up to more questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
The front yard, I'm looking at your site plan, and it looks like as if the existing building is just under 25 foot from the property line?
That is correct, yes. And so the addition will be 28 feet, but the existing front yard is only 25 feet.
Okay. I don't think I have too much of a concern with that one.
To assist the board, I mean, I think what my other perspective, looking at the aerial, I should have, didn't provide you one in your packet ahead of time, would be like the showing the surrounding neighboring properties look like smaller front yard setbacks, and so, I mean, that would be an argument of, well, they didn't go close to the front, that may be crowding the streetscape, so. But to respect the existing front yards and keeping them with the rest of the other side of Lincoln Avenue, maybe that's another argument for why it has to go farther deeper back into the sides.
Guys like that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So after, listening to the testimony today and reviewing the applicant's materials, receiving nothing in opposition, I have been convinced that that there are some unique circumstances or peculiar conditions of the property. To me, the most relevant may have been the ones we just mentioned regarding the front yards and how this property's front yard setback is different than its neighbors, and in trying to sort of maintain that streetscape. There are ways to create the additional space, namely the garage and driveway, and other additional space that could respect sort of the wishes of your neighbors and the character of the neighborhood. It seems like you guys are really being careful about not trying to piss off your neighbors. And that strict compliance with the zoning code may making this simple expansion sort of impractical. And so for those reasons, I do believe that the practical difficulty is caused by this code and its requirements, especially when it comes to bulk. And it's not sort of any intentional actions or inactions on part of the applicants. I do not believe that it's based exclusively on a desire to increase the value or income potential of the property. I think you guys are a family that wants to remain in the city and wants to make sure that you guys have a usable home for your family. And I believe that the variance will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property. In fact, we've heard testimony from the applicants today that they've made steps to accommodate suggestions or requests of neighbors. And the variance would be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the zoning code and the city's comprehensive master plan. There's no applicable urban renewal plan. It's not in the CHAP district. And I do not believe that the variance would in any other way be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, or welfare. And so for those reasons, I'm a yes to all 4 variances.
Also yes to all 4.
Also yes to all 4.
For helping the neighbor, I'm going to just say yes to all 4.
I will also say yes to all 4.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. So before we call the next case, I do want to announce that I have a conflict of interest, so I'll be recusing myself. Nose goes, who wants to be the chair for this case? Liz Cornish has volunteered herself to chair this next hearing, and we have an alternate who will be taking my place. Do we need 5?
I will be recused, yeah, and I will also need to recuse myself from being part of this project in its early stages.
All right, I recommend we take a 5-minute recess.
Yes, take a quick 5.
All right, we're ready to go back on the record.
All right, everybody, we are back on the record at 2:53.
All right. Now calling case number 250173, 700 West North Avenue as the appellant. I know that we have I think we have some folks testifying today. If you plan on testifying, can you please stand and be sworn? That includes anybody sitting in the gallery planning to testify in opposition. If she does decide to speak, we'll swear in then, but we've got to get going.
You raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under the family perjury that the answers that you give and statements that you make will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth? When you speak.
All right, because we have some folks here from the community to testify, I just wanted to go over some of the rules that we follow here at BMZA. The appellant will get the first word, then we will open the floor to any testimony in support or opposition from the community, and then the appellant gets the last word. So with that, I will go ahead and pass it over to staff and planning.
So Appeal 25-173, 700 West North Avenue is currently a property that contains approximately 1.5 acres and is part of the overall Reservoir Square development along North Avenue. The proposal here today is for a conditional use for 52 row houses, row house dwellings, which are a conditional use by board in the C2 zoning district. And in addition to the conditional use for all of the dwellings, there are a few of the lots that will need to go beyond the 5-foot maximum yard, which will have 10.8 and 6-foot yards on a few of the lots along North Avenue. So regarding the conditional use and the variances requested, planning recommends approval of the appeal.
And then also, Madam Chair, just calling out for the record that there's letters of opposition and support in the record on your files. I'm sure you've had a chance to read.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Thank you, Ms. Tilden.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for the record, Madam Chair, members of the board, Drew Tilden of Rosenberg Martin Greenberg. I am here on behalf of the applicant, and I am joined today by Ms. Teresa Stegman, who is a representative of the applicant, and also Mr. Josh Sharon, who is the civil engineer on this project. Now, I understand that this project has been before the board at this point. This is our third time. We were here last year for the Mayor's Office of Employment Development Building, and I understand that the project before I got involved was here in 2021, where the existing townhomes were approved. But just for background, because I know that we have a few new faces, this is a request for conditional use and variance approval necessary to construct 52 townhomes on what is the southeast portion of that lot right there. As Mr. Walker stated, this is an approximately 1.5 acre space. It is part of the property that was formerly the Madison Park North Apartments. Those apartments were acquired by the development team in 2016 and demolished. I've got a bit more information on the history of those units, but the redevelopment of this property was long awaited. The development team engaged in an extensive community engagement and planning process that led to the concept of Reservoir Square, which is a $170 million mixed-use development. They've already broken ground at this point on the Mayor's Office of Employment Development, which is in the far west portion of the property. That is going to bring a 68,000 square foot employment hub for the Mayor's Office of Employment Development. That groundbreaking was June 27th. They've also already broken ground on 120 townhomes that are going to be between Moed and the site, and then also just to the north of the site. And I've included a master plan for the Reservoir Square project in your files just for the record. Again, today we are here for what is known as Parcel C, 700 West North Avenue, and requesting variances for that purpose. I do want to just provide a little bit more background on this project. So when initially proposed, Parcel C was contemplated for use as a multifamily dwelling with ground floor commercial space. That project was going to be funded with approximately $32 million in public funding, largely new market tax credits. And it is such a phenomenal fact that the median household income in this census tract has since increased substantially, and that increase disqualifies the project for the new market tax credits and the other funding sources that were available, leaving an approximately $32 million funding gap for the apartment building. The development team, having heard during the extensive, almost decade-long community engagement process that retail was everything that the community wanted, first of all, exhausted every option available to try and put retail on this site, found that that was not feasible, and the best option to move forward and redevelop this site that has been long contemplated for use and is currently vacant, found that townhomes were best suited here and the only financially viable option, but they did say, we need to figure out how to move forward on this. And so they expanded the site area and acquired 600 West North Avenue and are now going to actually proceed. They've signed a lease with Streets. They broke ground on the building that was formerly a vacant daycare that was there and have demolished it. And they are also going to include restaurant space and retail. So we are so excited that we were able to find a solution that is bringing the amenities, especially the much needed grocery store, to the community while also making sure that Parcel C is redeveloped in an economically feasible way, because absent townhomes, nothing else would work. So sort of coming back to Parcel C specifically, I have site plans in your files. The 52 townhomes are proposed. There's also going to be 3 private alleys. All of these are going to include rear parking pads and garages. The project has already received SPRC approval last month, November 12th, and the plan is to deliver fully entitled townhome lots to a national home builder. That the goal is for that to be delivered in spring 2026, and then those units would go to market later that year. I have sort of referenced the community outreach process, but I do want to hone in on that. I know that we have some community members in this space who are going to present, but this has been an extensive community outreach process from 2016 and 2017 at the outset in order to sort of do the preliminary planning for what the development would look like, and then also throughout the actual development timeline. So as we were going through for the MOED approvals and also as we prepared to come in for these approvals, we went to the community, we shared our plans initially at a large open town hall in June, where we discussed the townhomes and we also, shared more information on the streets market. And then following that, we had follow-up meetings with individual organizations. So I believe it was Reservoir Hill Association, RHIC, Bolton Hill, to make sure that we're really getting the word out. And then on top of that, because we recognize that not everybody is a member of their community association, we also sent direct mailings to all of the homes that directly abut the property, just to make sure, again, that they are aware of what's coming in their community. So this hearing was actually initially scheduled for November 18th, and on the 14th, we received a message from one of the community groups requesting that we postpone to allow for additional time to discuss and for an additional town hall, which we were more than happy to do. The more that the community knows, the better. We had that town hall, I think, in an effort to make sure that residents who had not otherwise participated to that point were armed with information and prepared. Unfortunately, a video and survey went out that I believe unintentionally misstated the relief requested and indicated that this would be a rezoning and that it would preclude long-term any sort of commercial use on the property. And so I do want to note we've got substantial testimony in the file, both in support and opposition. And I do, again, just want to note that I think there was some confusion about exactly what we're here requesting today, which is the conditional use. It's a project-specific approval, and the variances, which again are project-specific approvals. So now turning to the legal standards, I know I've been a bit long-winded and you've heard a lot from everyone today, but the C2 district requires conditional use approval for townhomes, and then lots 128 through 146, so those are the ones that are fronting on North Avenue, are going to require a 10.8-foot front yard setback, and then the lots on Watt Street fronting are going to require a 6-foot front yard setback. I had not yet mentioned this, but before I move into the legal standards, I want to note there's a 20-foot grade change between the west lot line and the east lot line. So west lot line is 20 feet higher. That's a full story. And so that is something that is unique to this property, and also, as I will discuss further when I address the variances, gives rise to this practical difficulty in implying the regulations of the code. So to address again the Schultz v. Pritz standard, there must be an adverse impact above and beyond what is inherent to any use for a conditional use to be denied. It is otherwise presumed to be valid. I am going to reference the C2 district's definition and the intended uses of the C2 district, just to provide a bit of context of what a C2 property is supposed to be. So a C2 property is intended for areas typically located along urban corridors that are designed to accommodate pedestrians and, in some instances, automobiles. So this 700 block of West North Avenue is actually a perfect example of what a C2 district is supposed to look like. And really that provides a strong inference that this is compatible with such a use. There is a dearth of any sort of example of a fact or circumstance that would give rise to an adverse effect that's above and beyond what's inherent to a townhome and any C2 property. And I think that's further supported by the fact that the townhomes that are right next door and behind and catty-corner to this project were approved by the zoning board as conditional uses and have essentially the same circumstances. So moving on, the Schultz-Pritz standard is required to be applied to this board's the local jurisdiction's requirements. So I'll address the zoning code required considerations. The lot is currently vacant and it's comprised of approximately 1.5 acres. And as I mentioned, it's proposed to be subdivided for use into 52 townhomes, including alleys and off-street parking spaces. The townhomes are going to result in fewer housing units than the former Madison Park North apartment complex. So it's not going to impact traffic patterns, and also there's on-site parking. They are specifically designed, and also I want to note there's going to be substantially less density on this property than was initially proposed in terms of off-street parking. The townhomes are designed to be compatible with the adjacent residential neighborhoods, which are also comprised of row homes. The rehabilitation of the presently vacant property is to offer market rate townhomes, which is going to encourage future development in the area, especially because they're townhomes going onto what is presently a vacant lot. The adjacent property is a nearly identical townhome development, and it's a short walk from the Dorothy I. Height Elementary School, both of which again are compatible with townhomes. The project has received SBRC approval, so that confirms the accessibility for emergency vehicles, as well as light and air to the premises and the adequacy of utilities. The project is not going to impact any cultural or historic landmarks. Again, it's consistent with the residential character of the neighborhood, specifically the surrounding row house residential character of the neighborhood. And C2 districts are intended to abut residential communities. It's a community commercial district. It's classified as a predominantly pedestrian-oriented commercial area under the master plan's land use plan. And that's, again, consistent with the C2 zoning district, where this use is presumed to be valid, absent some showing that there are facts and circumstances otherwise. This project is not located in an urban renewal area. With the exception of the requested variances, this meets all the applicable standards and requirements of the code. The approval is in harmony with the stated intent to promote and protect public health, welfare, and quality of life for current and future generations, because it is creating not only new housing units, but again, building up what is presently a vacant lot in the only manner that is economically feasible. The conditional use approval is going to facilitate redevelopment of, again, this formerly blighted property and offering market rate homeownership units in the Reservoir Square community. That's actually a goal that is set forth in the John Eager Howard Inspire plan that applies to this site. So now to address the limited criteria for denial. In light of the fact that the proposed use will not negatively impact traffic or off-street parking, and it's obtained SBRC approval confirming adequacy of utilities and emergency access and light, air, and sound, this is not going to be detrimental to or endanger the public health, security, general welfare, or morals in a manner that rises above and beyond what is inherent to row houses anywhere else in the C2 district. The townhomes are not precluded by either of the two applicable urban renewal plans or any other law. They are compatible with the adjacent row house residential neighborhoods, and that's going to increase the likelihood of future development. And again, there are no facts or circumstances that would indicate that this is going to negatively impact the public interest in a manner that is inconsistent with the use anywhere else in the C2 district. And as I've already noted, this is in harmony with the purpose and intent of the zoning code. I will pause here and just see if there are any questions on the conditional use standards.
No questions on that. I just wanted to confirm, though, when you talked about community outreach, have you discussed 600 West North Ave with the community?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And I think part of the confusion from the survey was people thought that they were losing retail entirely, and then later realized that it's just moving. There's still going to be retail, and there's a grocery store that's still being delivered.
All right. Ma'am, we just asked that you will have your turn to speak, and so we just asked the people in the gallery stay quiet, but you'll have your turn. Okay.
A question.
Yeah.
Just, can you go through the off-street parking? So are there going to be, or will there be
garages with the townhomes? Like, how's that gonna work to mitigate the parking challenge potentially?
Yeah, so there will be garages with the townhomes. So, yeah, one space per unit, and then there's also a rear parking pad.
That's correct. Yeah, so there'll be an opportunity potentially for 2 cars to be provided for each unit.
Did you please provide your name and spelling?
Apologize. Josh Sharon, last name is Sharon.
Any other questions from the board? Okay.
Perfect. All right. So moving forward to the variance standard. Variance is required in order to approve a variance. The board needs to find that there is something unique about the property. So the conditions peculiar to the property, including physical surroundings, shape, or topographical conditions, or that there is some exceptional circumstance related to the land or structure that would give rise to a practical difficulty in applying the strict letter of the code. And as I've already mentioned, there's a 20-foot grade change between the westernmost lot line and the easternmost lot line, which is a full story of difference. And so in applying and I might defer to our engineer Josh on this, but please feel free to step in if I'm misstating anything. But these additional setbacks are required on the front side so that they can make sure that the garages are not 1 story above the foyer. So right now there's additionally a 10-foot grade change between the back property line and the front property line. So absent the additional setback with these stairs that are going to be placed in the front, there would be a garage on the 2nd floor of the front of the house. So you would have to come in from the garage and then walk down the steps. And not only is that impractical, but that's actually not a product that any national home builders offer. So it would entirely preclude the construction of those homes as row homes on this property. And so that gives rise to the practical difficulty on that side. And then speaking to the Watt Street homes, which are going to have a 1-foot variance from the 5-foot maximum front yard setback requirement, that is necessary so that there can be appropriate scaling for the step down. Now, Josh, I will.
You did a really great job. So it's important, none of the national, local, or regional builders build a product where you enter with a garage on the 2nd level. So if on the site plan, we try to depict that you can see the stairs from North Avenue. So when you're at North Avenue, you're walking up to get to the foyer level as well as a garage level. And the garage level is level with the private alley. So it's just, without that setback, we'd have no way to get persons from North Avenue to the foyer elevation.
And so, and just to kind of put that in layman's terms, it's the rise and length of the stair.
Exactly right.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you, Josh. And so there are some required supplemental findings to review, so I'll briefly address those, and then any further questions, of course, are welcome. So the 20-foot grade change is not generally applicable to other C2 properties. The unnecessary hardship is caused by the imposition of the 5-foot maximum front yard requirement on this property and not by any other person who has an interest in the property. The purpose is to facilitate the redevelopment of the property in a manner that's consistent with the character of the neighborhood. This is not based solely on the desire to increase the value or income potential of the property. It is to facilitate this property's redevelopment. The variances are going to facilitate the redevelopment, again, of a long blighted and underutilized lot. I mean, at this point, it's been vacant for 8 years. So the redevelopment is necessary and time sensitive. And also it's going to increase property values in the neighborhood by facilitating the creation of a safely built community. And I do also want to note there is evidence to show that, because since this project started, the income, the area of median income in this census tract has increased. The requested variances are in harmony with the purpose and intent of the code to promote and to protect public health. I've already addressed this in the conditional use section, so I won't belabor the point. It's not in an urban renewal area. It's consistent with the master plan, as I've already addressed, and the property is not located in a CHAP district. It's been reviewed by SPRC to confirm the front yard setbacks are not going to endanger the public health, safety, or security. And also, the requested variance relief is going to benefit the general welfare and morals, and it's going to favor the public interest because, again, it's going to facilitate the redevelopment of this long vacant property. So, again, for those reasons, we request approval, and I welcome any further questions.
No questions on that, and was that both of the variances?
Yes, so both of the variances are caused by the same need. They're both front yard setback variances. The one is for 10 feet, and then the one is for 6 feet. But we have addressed the necessity for both and the practical difficulty in the memorandum that we submitted to the file.
And then what about the variance for lot coverage? That's in the docket.
So we did not apply for a lot coverage variance. Yeah.
Just gonna double check.
Yeah, absolutely. And
there is some opposition testimony tied to that, so I just want to make sure if it was not applied for.
Yeah, sorry, and so maybe the memo reference, just the opposition, just raising concerns about the lack of just green space generally, and I
Okay,
apologize
so
for
relief
that.
requested, I had 3, conditional use 2 variances. So that's why.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, so just, all right, conditional use and then front yard variance. Got it. Any questions from the board before we hand it over to opposition?
No.
All right. Okay. Just some ground rules for folks here to testify today. We have received all of the letters in writing. They've been added to the file. We welcome your testimony. We ask that before you speak, you say and spell your name for the court reporter. And also please note that if your neighbor or somebody that you came here with today raises certain issues, you don't need to state those. We really want to make sure that every person testifying has something unique to say. It's just a way for us to make sure that we can sift through the arguments and be respectful of everybody's time. And so with that, I call the first witness in opposition. You're welcome to come to the podium and just make sure the microphone is on green. Thank you. And ma'am, were you out of the room when we swore people in? Yeah. Okay, you were here. Okay, great. Just noting because I couldn't see behind there. All right. All right, please say and spell your name for the court reporter.
My name is Lisa Ward. That's Lisa Ward. And my address is 2331 Utah Place, Baltimore, Maryland, 21217 in the historic Reservoir Hill District. Just listening to, and my own personal experience with Baltimore City is literally a developer's wet dream. They can literally come into the city, and they know this, promise everything, and deliver nothing. It is the proverbial bait and switch, and I am sick and tired of it. What they propose goes against fundamentally and comprehensively the West North Avenue Development Comprehensive Master Plan, the Baltimore City Comprehensive Plan, which involves greening for the community, gathering spots for the community, and none of that is in what they propose in the entire project. what the city envisioned, their own master plan, and this also violates the 2024 proposed land map for Baltimore City. That area, that corridor is bustling with retail and commercial space. Why would we ever not oppose more housing in an area as opposed to retail and commercial space when you're just putting more homes there? That's not the deal that we had. We were promised retail space at that particular location. And although they say they've exhausted all efforts to get retail in there, we've not heard about any discussions, any negotiations. In fact, we've never even been given any name for any retail establishment for that particular site. I'm not interested at what's going on at 600, that property. I'm interested in this property exclusively. They've shown us no effort to obtain any retail in that particular location. And that's why we went with them. But as MCB is wont to do, it's the bait and switch. So you promise us the moon and the stars, and then you deliver us sand in the way of more of a commercial and retail desert. It's great that we're going to have a grocery store. I mean, these are just basic things for livable community. How can this even be controversial? I've never once lived anywhere, and I've lived here, I've lived abroad. I've never lived any place where I felt the city's objective was to make or simply not care about the conditions under which we live. It's insane. And there's no need for the variance, okay? It's self-inflicted, okay? And it's for profit, okay? Because the residential townhomes is going to be a much easier sale than for them to actually go out and secure the retail necessary to give us what they promised us. We don't have any evidence of that. As a member of the Reservoir Hill Association, as a resident in that historic district, it's a nationally designated historic district. And everything that borders us impacts us. And this is an adverse impact because it's not consistent with the historic designation of our neighborhood. And they don't even care about that. But it does impact us. And for them to act as though it's consistent, it's completely inconsistent. And I just learned recently that they took down trees when greening was something. They promised us, and someone will testify about that, a certain number of trees, and then proceeded to cut those trees down, and then proceeded to give us or offer a lesser amount of trees. We need greening consistent with the master plan. Public art is part of the master plan. All of that is envisioned by the master plan, and this is entirely inconsistent with the master plan. And that's a reason to deny the request for the variance and the request to move forward. If the master plans are to mean anything at all, because why would you do them if the developers can come in and do the complete opposite? Everybody knows you can do that in Baltimore City. You come in, you say you're going to do one thing, you do another, and then you request the variance. And that's what's happening here over and over and over again. That is inconsistent with a livable community that's envisioned by the master plan, which is transit, which is active, not more homes, not more people in the food desert. And for that reason, and for those reasons, I'm objecting. There is no mechanism to hold developers, and this is related. There's no reason to hold developers to what they propose or what they say they're going to deliver. Baltimore City doesn't have anything like that. They just come in, and whether or not, there's no check on whether or not they have the available funding, whether they can pivot. We all understand pivoting. We know it has to be done when you're talking about development, but they don't have to do that because there's nobody overseeing what they promise to deliver. There's absolutely no evidence in this particular case that that was done. So granting this variance is almost going to ensure that the place where these townhomes are being built will never be used for commercial space again. We don't want to lose commercial space. What they've said to us is, oh, well, we'll do something with the homeowners association and we'll build it in, and that's no guarantee, so that they have the right, the particular homeowner has a right to build out a storefront in that place. That's insanity. Like, who plans for that? Okay, this is commercial space, vital commercial space that our community has been begging for and pleading for. And once again, we're getting the short end of the stick. The detrimental impact, it abuts a residential, a nationally designated historic district, and it is completely opposite of what our historic homes designate or are part of. It doesn't increase the value of my home. Home prices are going up all over the place. This actually, in my opinion, would drag it down. It's not consistent with this historic district. And for, just so that you're aware, the historic district, even being close to a historic district, even if your property is not itself individually qualifying for a historic designation, the fact that you're close to one, the proximity, also confers that status. Okay, that hasn't occurred in this situation. I'm not sure why. However, it doesn't align with the historic nature of our district. And so the statements to that effect are completely false. I have spoken with property owners for the new developments. They didn't get any flyers. And there was nothing wrong or any misstatement made in our survey that came from the Reservoir Hill Association. There were no misstatements. It was complete statements of fact. And we do oppose it. And there was overwhelming opposition to it. I'd also like to add that RHIC doesn't represent our interests. Those people don't even live in our area, okay? They don't represent our interests at all. We actually live there, okay? And despite what council said about this being consistent with the definition of C2, it's retail, it's commercial, okay? We have none of that. The fact that it's someplace else doesn't address whether or not it's appropriate in that position as we were promised. And in that regard, it doesn't meet the definition. It's not consistent. And for all of those reasons, I'm staunchly opposed to the variance as stated and requested. Thank you for your time.
All right. Who would like to speak next?
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Jean Adrian, Jean Adrian. I'll be pretty short. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk this morning. If we consider that these 52 townhomes come on top of the 120 that are already built or being built, we consider, I live on Linden Avenue, 2 blocks from the development. We found, and my neighbors found that this development is very dense and leaves very small room for green spaces. Adding a few feet at the front yard doesn't qualify as green space as I see it. The 700 plot development and the 600 plot development contributed to a massive destruction of biomass. Mature trees were cut on the 700. All mature trees standing currently on 600 block are going to be cut. Actually, if you can switch to the right to see 600, you'll see that this urban forest is going to disappear. So it is kind of counterproductive that armies of volunteers go around the neighborhood planting trees on Saturday morning if a developer comes and destroys the biomass. When it's part of the North Avenue development plan to green the area, and we are destroying trees. For building those townhomes and the entire development of the 700 plot, the mitigation planting is actually 14 trees. 14 trees were planted in the neighborhood to mitigate for the loss of biomass. We consider that this is ridiculously small. I'm glad you mentioned the pertinence of the C2, the intent of the C2 zoning. And C2 allows for green space, for playground, for daycare. Where are they? There is no place for the community to meet, to get together as a community. All townhomes are going to have a garage underneath with an automatic door. Everybody's going to drive through their garage, get the door down, and there is no place to even walk your dog. So one picture is being worth 1,000 words. I'll just go show you pictures of those trees, beautiful biomass that we are not going to be able to enjoy. And the community has actually identified 27 trees that are missing in the surrounding 2 blocks. So
do you have a copy for the applicant?
I think they already, I'm the tree guy, they have it already. I gave it to you.
I don't have the copy, I'll take one.
Okay. And here is the list that Brando told me is open to look at planting in the neighborhood. So anyway, those 27 trees, 22 tree wells, 13 stumps to be removed at the minimum. Since it's not cost effective to build green space, because I realize that the $400,000 townhomes is much more profitable than the corner park. At least plant in the neighborhood. Those 27 trees there are 27 spots that need a tree. So here we are. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. I welcome anybody else who would like to testify. Thank you.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to know if I can get one of those. Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, this was the gentleman.
That's
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. My name is Rolando, Rolando. Last name is Maxwell, Maxwell. First of all, I'd like to receive one of those packages, since we can give you, if it's possible.
I'm sorry, what?
Package that from the presenter. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. I will start by saying that, yes, I've been of many of the meetings Mr. Bramble presented at our community. I also will say that Teresa and I have worked together various times in the city trolley tour. We have presented this project as the way it was presented to us many years ago. And we have sold this project to the presenters that come to the trial tour is that they will be receiving these different parcels that they propose to us. They break it down in alphabetical order. I want to break it down in phases. According to Mr. Bramble and NCB, there was when built 120 townhouses. In this process, this was supposed to give them the financial stability to build the other project, which was a mixed-use project. So for them to say now that because the building of these townhouses have increased the value of the economic situation in our neighborhood, no, they don't have the funds. Once in the past, we was always told by our elected official that due to the fact that our income in the neighborhood is so low that we cannot expect any grocery store there. No Starbucks, no nothing like that. So Mr. Granville came and presented us this great plan where townhouses were built first. I call that phase A. Phase B will be the multi-use property. Instead, he only developed phase A, okay, which is the townhouses. In turn, they turned around and came to y'all and says they want to build, using the correct word, a mayor office and employment. A mayor office and employment was never presented to us in any other presentation Mr. Bramble presented to this community, okay? So this was not something that was presented to us in any other presentation prior to the construction of the townhouses. I would like to, even though Mrs. Ward has stated it, most of the time, if the city need anything done in this community, they reach out to us. This includes our councilman, James Torrance, and Antonio Ace, our senator. So we have reached out to the school and give out flyers and let the community know that they're having a meeting. There's a pattern of mostly all these developers to always represent or go to a community group, which she stated is RHIC, which do not represent the community in general. The reason RHA was formed because RHIC was making decision for our community and we was not even aware, not even a person that was living adjacent to where these BMZ changes was being made. And you all used to turn around and says, oh, we got a letter from RHIC, we got 40 opposition, and RHIC speak for the neighborhood. And that's false. Unfortunately, the city have not at this point, even though they asked us, our representative asked us to do these things, we haven't been even put in your directory as a community association. But we do the footwork. And I know myself do the footwork, okay? As I stated before, I've presented this project to a trolley tour in several locations for the last couple of years from the time this development was formed. Every year we have been there and we have promoted it. Or any other development that a developer come and is doing something in our neighborhood. I will ask this board to look into live work townhouses and 6th Avenue Tacoma in Washington, where they have built live rental space. We have brought this to Mr. Bramble as to please consider building some of these townhouses, especially those that's on the corridor of North Avenue, where there's a possibility that the owner have the option to either rent it out or if he's an artist, have a space that, and this corridor where we could have some commercial space. There's no reason why Reservoir does not deserve a commercial space. We once had, based on what I was told by the elders in the neighborhood, White Locker was a commercial place at one time, and unfortunately, the city decided to tear it down, and we are left with no commercial space in this neighborhood. And based on the future development that I've been present at, none of the developers is planning to build any additional commercial space. Yes, they will say that they're planning to do something at 600 North Avenue, but 600 North Avenue was not in the original plan where they presented. She stated that they acquired, but what she failed to say is that this is a joint venture between Blank Slate and MCB. Okay? So I hate to use this term and call people that they're not saying the truth, but unfortunately, this attorney or this representative of MCB, there's certain things that was mentioned that was not completely truthful, that also Mrs. Ward stated as a confusion with the survey. Please be aware that the survey had roughly a week, if my memory doesn't fail me, to submit this and send it out to the community. This was all the work that we did. I don't know what flyer they sent out, because I never received any. And none of the neighbors in my community, I think, received any. So I will leave it as that. He's only delivering and wanting of the phases that he presented to us, which is the townhouses. I understand you wish to put something up there in that space, which I think that's actually is not the correct and actual picture of the lot at this point, because in that presentation there that they have there is no existing of any of the present construction that you have there. You don't see the townhouses, and you don't see the workforce that's been there.
That's
So,
just a Google map picture, so that just means the little Google car hasn't
okay,
driven
but
by
it
in a
is
while.
also can create a distortion in your mind. As we as human beings tends to be visual sometime, so you can visualize something and make it think that based on their presentation, they do it
I
this
just
way.
wanted to
Please
make it
understand
clear
that
it wasn't
I'm not
a picture
totally.
submitted by the appellant or anything. It was just pulled up.
We
on
are in
Google Maps.
support of the doing something in the lot, but I will ask you all to, before making the decision, look into the project in Washington State.
Okay.
And I will leave it as that. And have a great day.
Thank you very much. Anyone else would like to testify? Okay.
Yes, I do. Elijah Thomas, spelled Elijah, last name Thomas. Madam Chair, just keeping with your request, I won't reiterate the points of my neighbors. I am a homeowner in Reservoir Hill, and I bought my home in late 2022, around that time, and the large part to the decision to move into Baltimore from New York was the development on this site. And since being here, I kind of just seen townhouses go up. Those phases that was mentioned from the Madison Square Park to Reservoir Square planning just hasn't fully come through. If commercial space is moving to the 600 lot of West North Avenue, I just ask that we see the fruition of that plan somewhat in some like reasonable time. Because like I said, since buying my home, I just seen townhouses go up, and that's just is disheartening because this neighborhood desperately needs commercial space. this neighborhood desperately needs a grocery store specifically, and some type of community gathering. There's no interaction beyond the Reservoir Hill residents to the Bolton Hill residents to people that even neighbor like Hampton and all the other neighborhoods around us. So if you guys do approve of this rezoning, I hope that you guys hold their feet to the fire to develop that 600 lot on the West North Avenue. And yeah, so like I said, thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to testify? All right, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you so much. So I want to say thank you to everybody from the community who has joined today. I think at our last community meeting, Ms. Stegman and Mr. Bramble both expressed the fact that they value community input, and teams might not always agree, but it is invaluable and it has contributed to this project planning's process, and it continues to do so. I think there are a few points that I would like to address. I think first and foremost, I want to note that we recognize that this survey was submitted with every intention to support the residents and make sure that the development is consistent with what the residents want and need, and also that they understand what's coming. And I do think we want to emphasize that any inconsistencies were due to a lack of understanding. In the event that the board has any questions about what the survey says, we can provide a sample of it. And I think the language was merely confusing, unintentionally referencing zoning changes that are not reversible. So I just, again, want to clarify, we don't think that there was any ill intent in the language that was in the survey, merely that it resulted in some confusion for the surrounding residents that we hope to clarify here and continue to clarify as we proceed with the community engagement efforts. I also do want to note, if you point to the Reservoir Square Project Master Plan, there's a park just to the east or to the west of this project. So green space is contemplated. And again, we welcome all feedback and strive for green space, but this project is not without green space. There is a park directly across the street from this property that is proposed. Oh, that's already built, actually. So next, I would just sort of like to address the variance legal standards that have been raised. First and foremost, the variances are necessary because the property is sloped. We could not build on this property, which generally has a 5-foot maximum front yard setback requirement, because of the slope. So if the property is going to be developed in a feasible way, we're going to need to apply that front yard setback variance. I also do want to distinguish between financial feasibility and profitability. This $32 million funding gap, which the development team has, again, explored ad nauseum, is something that makes the redevelopment of this property infeasible. It cannot proceed. So it is not a question of the profit margins of the development team. It's whether or not there's enough money to move forward and build it. I also do want to note, I know there's been reference to live work. When I say everything has been considered, it's everything. Live work has been thrown on the table. Lower density commercial, everything has been considered. And I think the fact of the matter is that the development team will share as much of their process as they can. But there is so much that goes into planning a development, and they can't share everything. So we are always open to questions and comments. That's why we hosted the December 1st, or we joined the December 1st meeting. We postponed the last hearing date to facilitate further communications. And of course, any recommendations, suggestions are welcome. They are considered. But the fact of the matter is, this is the only thing that can feasibly go up on this site. So I think, Ms. Stegman, if there's anything that you want to add, feel free. I understand that you all haven't yet actually heard from the developer. So if there's anything that I've missed.
Hi, say and spell your name.
Yes, Teresa Stegman, T-H-E-R-E-S-A, last name Stegman, S-T-E-G-M-A-N. I'm a vice president with MCB Real Estate. Ms. Tilden has done an excellent job summarizing the issues, our outreach to the community. I've worked on this project since starting with MCB over 4 years ago, and have been at most of the, virtually all of the community meetings, except for one where I had a family commitment. And we always have strived to make this a mixed-use development with the ultimate goal of supporting a grocery store at 600 West North Avenue. That development plan, because of market conditions, because of changing conditions, we've had to pivot over time, but we've never given up. I think any other developer that would have tried to take this project on would have given up a long time ago, and when the original plan didn't come to economic feasibility, would have thrown in the towel, but we do not do that. So because of Mr. Bramble's commitment to seeing this project through, he's a West Baltimore resident, we have given this every ounce of consideration possible. I have, as Ms. Tilden mentioned, looked at options ad nauseum. It's my job to figure out really complicated projects. And this is the option that allows this site to be completed. And because of the setback we are receiving and our ability to create these townhomes in a way that would allow at some point in the future for a commercial use, I think we're allowing this site to be developed to completion while still allowing the opportunity for, as the market provides opportunities for commercial to organically happen here. And we want to make sure that we're doing this in a very thoughtful, responsible way, so we're not leaving vacant storefronts on North Avenue. So for all of these reasons, we would humbly ask for your approval.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions?
I guess, the only question I would have is I hear that word commercial thrown around, and I heard one person talk about food desert. Other than markets, what type of commercial do you think would help stabilize your community?
Yes, so the grocery store is critical, and that's why we took an additional risk with acquiring 600 West North Avenue in partnership with Blank Slate across the street. And that includes not only the grocery store, but also ancillary retail, such as a neighborhood restaurant, community serving retail, so like a nail salon, hopefully some sort of financial institution, but that again depend on market. But we have plans for about 6,000 square feet, between 5,000 and 6,000 square feet of community serving retail. There's also a cafe that we have planned for in the Mayor's Office of Employment Development, so there will also be retail on the western side of the site. But the grocery store is the critical piece, and then we're hoping, again, that organically provides the opportunity and builds the market so that at some point in the future, the homeowners that have the homes on North Avenue, if somebody has a soap business, right, and they want to open a storefront, that they will have the ability to do that, or any other commercial neighborhood appropriate uses for this site. So it's all about building the market. We have a whole white paper that we put out about how we have approached this 8-acre site to build the market and make what otherwise not would have been possible.
Okay.
I was trying to get a neighborhood feel. One of the people who spoke from the neighborhood talked about commercial. One talked about markets. I was just trying to see if they could come. Well, because of the format.
Yeah, because of the format.
Yeah, this is the format. Yeah. All right, I got it.
But I think, just sort of expanding on what Ms. Stegman just shared, the lease is signed with Streets Market. So they are signed, they're ready to go. Generally, leasing for other smaller retail spaces doesn't begin until construction starts. So we won't have a full sense of what exactly is going in there, but there is a really strong goal to have a restaurant and also other neighborhoods serving commercial uses of some sort. It's not clear exactly what they'll be.
Yeah. And we have had interest from existing restaurateurs who wanted to look at the site to test out new concepts. We don't share names until we have the lease signed. That's our policy. But there is interest in the site, and like Ms. Tilden said, once we're under construction, it becomes eminently more reasonable to then get that leasing activity truly going.
I understand. Okay.
A question I have is, when you look at the site plan, it is, it's not a lot of green here, except the boundary where you show some trees dropped in. Can you speak to your attempts to add green spaces or community open centers on the site and to make it not so townhome focused?
And then Justin, are you able to put up the site plan on the screen? This one?
I don't have the master
okay.
plan, I don't think
That's okay.
electronically, unless you provided it.
Field part of that question. So this is a great aerial, so you can see where the 770 West North Avenue is. That's the park that's already been built. So that is just west of Bolton. Thank you, Justin. So that park area exists today, can be enjoyed today. Folks can walk their dog today. There are benches there. There'll be additional furniture that is set out since the turn of season. As far as the parcel C area, there are gaps in between all the townhomes that will be placed with sidewalks, benches, planted landscape. There are parcels, open areas where there are not townhomes that are up against North Avenue, where we could have added additional units had we desired to, I'll say jam in additional units. So I know that I could get 4 additional units on this parcel without too much effort. But instead, those will be green areas adjacent to the townhomes. So we have made efforts to have green areas, to have landscaping. We will meet and exceed all the landscape and forest conservation requirements, and will be held to that standard through bond posting and security release as part of the Baltimore City process.
Okay. Any other questions?
No questions.
Anything else, Ms. Tilton?
No, I think that's everything. And again, thank you to the community for being here and to you all for your attention.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now we move into deliberation. I think one of the things that I hope that I can be able to do is sort of be a bridge between some of the community concerns and what we've heard from the developer here today, just to make sure that you all feel that your comments have been addressed as best that we can. I think I want to start with some of the concern that there's not systems in place to hold developers accountable. I think we are. And we are here today to do that. In addition, there are things like site plan review and lots of other agencies that have to get, that developers have to seek approval from. I recognize that that process isn't always transparent, but I want you to feel aware that they do exist, and that's why we're here today. We're here to make sure that what they are asking to do, because they were not allowed to do it without asking permission, that they have followed that process, and we are here today to evaluate that. I think the other thing that I heard was some concerns about green space and tree mitigation. Tree mitigation is one of those things that is spelled out in a law. It's formula funded or formula based. I build parks. This is how I know. And so I would just encourage the developer. I guess I will put the question, and this is for you, what is the mitigation formula that you are currently using and any partnerships that you have with the neighborhood right now on tree mitigation?
I will specify I am a civil engineer and not a landscape architect. So, I unfortunately, I do not know that equation off the top of my head.
That's okay.
We do have registered landscape architects. That plan was approved by SPRC. Rachel Whitehurst has reviewed that. She'll see it again as part of our development plan. We, at one time, did look into, I have the list here, we did look into putting trees out into the community. That's a very tough process because they're responsible for making sure they survive.
Yeah.
So at the direction and coordination with Department of Planning and street trees, we brought those back closer to the site. That's the only reason we are providing trees further into the community. We do have a responsibility, as you likely know, to make sure those are maintained for a year. The security will be held. There were trees taken down on North Avenue, not by us at the start of construction. That was actually Baltimore City. And we are replanting those, I'll call them dead tree pits as part of this project. Not all of the planting that is for parcel B, the townhomes, parcel A, has been completed yet. So I think the community will be impressed at the right time when those construction phases are completed. There will be additional trees around the site. And then finally, assuming the project does move forward, there'll be additional trees as a result of parcel C that go into the nearby community. So we're, developers are definitely tree folks. We have landscape architects on staff, and we take it very seriously for greening and using the appropriate species for diversity throughout our project.
Thank you. And so to kind of go back and make sure that the community is heard, what I see on the site plan here as I'm looking at it is that there are sites that would have been available to be built as homes that have been reserved for green space, things that could have fronted Lenox Street and North Avenue and Bolton. There are 6 that I count. There might be a few more lots that are going to be green space in addition to the park. So while the site itself will be built and not green space exclusively, I do feel like the attempts made here address some of those needs to make sure that there is at least some green space in the area. I also want to talk about the sentiment of bait and switch. And this one is a really tough one for communities, especially for a process this long. I think I was at the groundbreaking 8 years ago. And so I sympathize with the community about the length of time that you've had to remain vigilant and invested in what this project would be, has been, and will become. And so I want to sympathize with you on that, and that it is difficult when you have been invested in a certain outcome to then learn years later that it wasn't financially viable. And for neighborhoods, that doesn't always feel good to hear because that shouldn't be the sole criteria on which things we do. Unfortunately, this is a private lot owned by a private developer, and that they have the ability to change, when the math changes and the economy changes, that may influence what decisions they have to build. And I think at this point, what I would encourage the community to do, and most importantly, what I encourage MCB to do, is to continue to work with the community to make sure that there is really good information. Because I think what can happen is that as things change over time, things that aren't communicated feel like betrayal. When it's not betrayal, it's economics, it's the market. And those things are not within the control of us as residents, and certainly not as developers. And so I think that's something that is very difficult for residents to have to go through and deal with. But I am sympathetic that when plans like this change, when you've been betting on it, when you've been showing up for meetings, it can be difficult. I do want to commend the developer for purchasing and securing the lease for a grocery store on 600 West Ave. What that indicates to me is a good faith effort to not just abandon the retail that was promised or pledged to the community or presented to them years ago, but then to acquire additional property, to take on additional financial risk, and most importantly, secure the lease on a grocery store. I think another thing, just to make sure that because there was lots of community response in this, is that the math on commercial development is really tricky. And in order to make it viable, you have to have lots of people live there. And so I think what this townhouse development does is it creates a level of density that sets up the neighborhood to support successfully future retail, especially small retail. Small businesses are really, really tough to do without foot traffic. And so I think that's one thing I wanted to note is that while it's not the same amount of density as if it were a large multi-unit apartment building, I think the density proposed here does feel promising for the ability to support future retail. I also want to make clear to the community that this variance does not change the zoning of the property. And so that in the future, if there, and I think Ms. Stegman pointed this out, in the future, if any of the homes, especially along North Ave, like a commercial corridor, are viable to become more commercial spaces, there's a path to that. That building these homes today does not shut off from the future. So I think that's if the variance is granted today, that does not mean these necessarily will be townhomes forever and ever, right? Like the zoning isn't changing for the parcel; it's just giving them permission to build townhomes today. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. You all are experts in your own community and have obviously spent a lot of time both alongside this project and doing all of the effort and research that it takes to come here and testify. So I just want to say that I'm very grateful for your time and I'm sympathetic to the challenges. And I just wanted to make sure that you knew that we heard you and wanted to take that into consideration. All right. Anyone else have any comments or thoughts to the deliberation?
I do. I would add that if you all admittedly feel like the survey was confusing or worded wrong or the time frame, was somewhat unrealistic, to potentially consider reissuing the survey in a manner that's easily digestible for the community and to sort of give some time to respond. I am curious, you said that you all postponed the December hearing to have a community meeting. Did any of the comments that came out of that meeting result in any tweaks with your plan?
No. So I think a number of items addressed in the meeting were things that had been previously addressed in other community meetings. I think at this point we had hosted a town hall on this in June about the change from multifamily over to townhomes. We presented before RHA at the end of September, as well as RHIC, as well as the Bolton Hill Community Association, and Historic Mount Royal. And I think in terms of, we also sent letters. It's only the properties that directly abut this site, but letters were sent out also explaining this. And so I think there were a number of new faces who had questions that had been otherwise addressed and considered by the development team. So had something new come up that solved all of the problems, then we happily would have gone back to the drawing board. But unfortunately, it was nothing new. And I do also want to share that following the meeting, we did prepare sort of a zoning fact sheet on this project that was distributed to RHIC, RHA, and Mount Royal. I think on those two chains.
Yeah, they were on that chain.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm not sure if they were distributed to the membership of those groups, but we did take the time to provide some further clarification.
I appreciate that. I think my perspective is that the facts that we're discussing today don't seem to necessarily be the problem, and I think this conversation kind of speaks more to, it seems like there's just a broader impatience and dissatisfaction with the site in general that I think your team will just continue to have to work through just seems like that's what it is.
Yeah, and this is an ongoing project, and we're going to be in the community, so the development team is committed to keeping those lines of communication open.
Any other comments or questions? No. All right. So let's do the easier one. Let's do the front yard variance. So in this case, the applicant is requesting for lots 128 to 146. They're proposing a 10.8 foot front yard setback, and then 6 foot setback on lots 154 to 172. This will allow deeper setbacks than typically permitted in the C2 district, but upon testimony from the applicant today, we learned that this is due to a slope and grade of the property, and that in order to be made viable for home builders, they really needed to think through the design of the home, and therefore requires front steps with specific length and rise to allow for these homes to be built in a useful manner. So for that, I am a yes on the front yard variance.
Yes on the variance.
I am a yes as well on the variance.
Yes.
Okay. Great. So the conditional use, so we're looking to anything that is not currently permitted has to come before the board and ask for conditional use. In this case, they are proposing building multiple townhomes. Just a reminder to the board, one of the things that we have to consider, or the thing we have to consider, is the Schultz v. Pritt standard. In order to deny a conditional use, the board must find facts and circumstances that show that the particular use proposed at the particular location proposed would have adverse effects above and beyond those inherently associated with such a conditional use, irrespective of its location within the zone. Stated another way, in order to deny the use, the board must find facts and circumstances indicate that the particular conditional use and location proposed would cause an adverse effect upon adjoining and surrounding properties, unique and different in kind or degree than inherently associated with such use. So with that standard, I find that the construction of townhomes adjacent to a residential neighborhood, considering the fact of how they fit in with the additional parcel and the already constructed homes, I do not think that this conditional use will provide any adverse effects above and beyond those inherently associated with this conditional use, irrespective of its location with the zone. And for that, I am a yes for the conditional use.
I'm a yes as well.
I'm a yes as well.
I agree with your assessment. I'm a yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.